definitely could be that. Alright, so this next story is a little bit more sinister. It was posted 10 months ago, and the title is Someone Tried to Abduct Me, North Texas, 1980. OB starts by saying, I have never shared this story except, strangely enough, to my teacher at the time. I was in the first grade at Northside Elementary in DeSoto, Texas. I am so sorry if I mispronounced that. I think that's how you pronounce it. We lived about, quote, 3 long blocks down, as my mother liked to call it. I personally feel as it was a lot more. My sister and I were brought to school on a regular basis and walked home. My parents decided to divorce right at this time. My dad moved out and we started seeing him every other weekend. My mom began dating someone else, and I remember she no longer became interested in taking us to school as much. She became very preoccupied with her new relationship, and I remember that she had often had me walking to school as well as coming home. Thinking back now, I'm not sure why I was late. There might have been a doctor's appointment or something. I remember that I wasn't very late at all, maybe just an hour or so after school started. My mom pulled up in the car and I got out. I remember hoping that she would wait there to watch me go up the flights of stairs and inside, but she drove right off to my dismay. And this is when I saw him. A man, pretty normal looking, stepped out of a car looking directly at me. My mom had pulled off and this man was the only person around. He crossed the street quickly, at an angle coming directly towards me. I remember turning and running up the steps. There were 3 flights of stairs with landings in between. When you are a little girl, these stairs seem much bigger. I remember looking over my shoulder, and he was literally running up the stairs after me, and I had that horrible gut reaction and ran as fast as I could. I remember the double doors in front of me, and I was panicked, thinking I would not make it. At that young age, I felt the energy coming from this otherwise normal-looking person who looked like a dad. I remember the huge intrinsic feeling of doom and urgency to go through those doors. And I did, and I immediately turned around and saw him standing on part of the second set of stairs, and he just stood there looking at me as I looked at him from inside the building. And then he looked very frustrated and turned, walking away back to his car. I remember telling my teacher about it. Maybe a week later, a police detective showed up to interview me about what happened. This makes me think it may be connected to something that happened in the area at that time. I don't think I have ever been that afraid in my life, and it was a powerful internal fear. It was like my body told me to immediately run. This is my story. I'm going to try and load a picture of a school entryway so you can see what I was describing. And if I can, I will post the picture here of the school entryway for you guys. Alright, so this next story is on the Let's Not Meet subreddit. It was posted 9 months ago, and it's titled, He Tried to Come In to Clean Our Carpets. This one's gonna be a little bit of a long one. So, OP starts off with saying, my mom's dog, Punky, in brackets R.I.P. R.I.P. Punky, was a very sweet, loving dog. She was an ESA dog, but trained to be a service dog for PTSD before she lost her leg. I had never seen her get aggressive with anyone in the entire 12 years she lived. She never growled or nipped anyone, and she had no sense of smell, so she'd love all animals and people, a real gentle giant among our little terriers at 60 pounds. What I'm getting at here is that her barking at something and being aggressive, it was so wildly uncharacteristic that I only saw it once. I, 11 female, was at home with my siblings, 2 male and 6 female. My then stepdad is at work, and my mom ran up to the gas station to grab a pack of cigarettes. It was only a mile or 2 away from us. For reference, we lived in a 2-bedroom trailer in the middle of the woods, on a dead-end road at the time, and you had to really a sudden, all of our dogs, about 2 Boston Terriers and 1 Chihuahua, perk up, bark a few times, and start investigating down the hall. Why did I say Chihuahua like that? Chihuahua. My siblings were napping in the bedroom at the end of the hall at the time, so I figured they just stirred and scared the dogs. But then, Punky sits up suddenly, stands up on the couch, and puffs her chest out. Her ears are perked up, her fur standing on end, her tail straight up, and then she barks. Loudly. I mean, the bark booms through the living room and echoes around, and all of a sudden, she lunges off the couch and goes tearing down the hallway. I'm already on edge because I don't think I've heard her bark, ever. So her bark is more of a baying sound, but this was a big, loud, alert bark. I stand up and go to look down the hallway, ready to fight off what I'm assuming is a shadow monster in the hallway based on how the dogs are acting. But then I hear it. Knock, knock, knock. We didn't get visitors because of how weird our house was location-wise, so my 11-year-old mind had no clue what to do here. The only people who showed up were family, and they didn't knock, so I slowly walked towards the door. The knock drew the attention of the dogs, and they came running back down the hallway, all except for Punky, and I felt better with our 3 yappy dogs in the room with me, even if they were all the size of New York City sewer rats. I opened the door just a bit, and standing on our porch is the sketchiest man I've ever seen. I can still picture him perfectly. He was a very thin, taller man with dark hair and a sunken face, bags under his eyes, and this half-managed hair, sort of like he gave it a quick brush and then figured it was good enough. Everything about him seemed just a little too thin, a little too shadow, and his clothes were all off too. They were nice, but fake nice, you know? Like a clean, newer-looking t-shirt and new jeans, but he had what looked like a suit jacket on. All of his clothes were dark too, despite the fact that it was summer in Texas and the weather was definitely into the 100s that day. He also had this plain, unlabeled bottle in his hand. It looked like the label had been covered up and taped over. I stare up at him in confusion because I definitely don't know this man, and I ask what he wants. He smiles at me in this way that's way too fake, like this exaggerated and forced grin, and he spoke in the same voice retail workers do. Hey there, kiddo, I'm trying to sell this here carpet cleaner, and he shakes the bottle at me. Mind if I come in to show you how good it works? Alarms are going off in my head because he just seems so off. Looking back with an adult perspective, the fact that he didn't ask if my parents were home is unnerving because he probably knew they weren't, and that's why he was here in the first place. I should have told him to get off our property, that I'd go get my mom, something except what I did say, but I didn't. Instead, I just shook my head and said, no, we don't have carpet. Well, it works on other things, and he took a big step towards the door and shook the bottle at me. I start to freak out and think to close the door, but the thing is, our front door didn't even lock. Small town, hard to access home, and we never needed a lock. Well, now you do, so. Well, that's basically useless. I'm sure there's something very wrong about to happen, and I'm terrified as I think about what to do in the few seconds I think I have before it does happen, when all of a sudden, I hear it. Punky had crept up from the hallway, lowered towards the ground with her teeth bared and snarling like she was feral. She had slobber just dripping from her mouth. Her ears were down and she was ready to pounce. The guy hears it too, and as I look towards Punky, she tries to lunge past me, and I just barely catch her with my leg as she tries her hardest to duck past me and attack this guy. He freaks out and runs off the porch without another word, booking it down the driveway as I let Punky out along with the rest of our dogs, and they start chasing him. Our small dogs chase him down the driveway and stop about halfway, barking and jumping about, but Punky stops just on the porch and watches him with their ears perked, just staring in the distance until he disappears. I swear I saw someone The second he disappeared, Punky's entire body language changed, and she went back to being the sweet dog I knew. No barking or growling, just laying around, mouth and throat still covered in slobber. I realize my siblings are still down the hall and run to check on them, and when I get to the bedrooms, my siblings were sleeping soundly still. But the bedroom window was wide open. The curtains pushed all to one side, and the items on the dresser in front of the window all shoved around. Someone had tried to climb through the window, no doubt in my mind about it. From what I can gather, the bedroom window was visible from the couch where Punky was sleeping, so I think someone was trying to climb through the window before Punky went after them and scared them off. And the man at the door was meant to distract me. They definitely didn't expect Punky, a bigger dog, because most of the time she was with my mom inside while our small dogs were the ones that saw public eye more often. I don't know what they intended to do, but after my mom got home and she took all of us to my aunt's house, and on our way there we saw the men walking up someone else's driveway. Men plural, because we watched a second one split off to wait by the road. So, to the two men apparently going door to door to sell their unlabeled carpet cleaner, I'd really rather not meet again. Alright, so this next story is titled Friendly Jogger, posted 3 years ago on Creepy Encounters subreddit. OP starts off by saying, I know this isn't maybe to the tier of some other stories here, but it still scared me nonetheless. I was 13 to 14 when this happened. We just had an event at school, meaning we had a half day. Even though I was all dressed up, nice dress and shoes, and it was raining, I wanted to walk back home through the park that was in between where I lived and my school. Disclaimer, I am sorry if you hear any background noise, and by background noise I mean the people above me. Like right now, I am so sorry if you can hear them. Anyways. I wanted to walk home since my parents were kind of the helicopter type, and I figured they didn't know when my half day ended, so they couldn't track me. I put on my raincoat and started walking towards the park. A couple blocks away from the entrance, I stopped at a red light where a middle to old-aged man was in jogging attire and a light raincoat. Now, I live in the city, and one thing about the city is that you almost never small talk with strangers, ever. But he was on the older side, so I didn't think it was weird. Then he started talking to me. Sometimes older people like to talk, which is true. I actually agree. Like, wouldn't really say I'm in a city, more of just like a small town. City people usually know, like, not to talk to anyone, and I mean, I'm from the city, so I don't really talk to anyone, but people here, especially old people, will say, like, hello, or, like, how are you, or, like, good evening, and I'm just, like, I keep walking. It's so weird for me. I usually smile and just keep walking because it's just weird. Like, I just don't do that. I have just never been raised to do that, and living in a city, I just never did that, so, yeah, I can see why. It started out as small talk, the rain, etc. But as we both started crossing the street, the conversation started to slowly get stranger. What a pretty dress. What are you going to, some sort of party? I told him I was going to a friend's house, which was a lie, and that I'd just been to an event. Well, that dress makes you look so mature. I didn't comment because what could I say? It wasn't even a dress that was meant to somehow be for someone older. It was just a fancy dress. He started talking more, still walking right next to me, saying he had to get his jog in before the rain started and how he liked to run in the park. That would have been all good and dandy, but just a minute after, he said that we walked past where he needed to turn to go into an entrance. This made no sense, and he would have to walk a full extra 8 blocks to enter the park. Like I said, I'm in the city, meaning there's always people around. However, there were less people out and about since A, it was a bit before midday, so people would residential area, and B, it had started to rain. And he continued talking. Where are you going? I could always walk you there. I'm good, thank you. Also, I think you just missed your turn into the park. He made a bit of a sour facial expression before almost immediately becoming all cheery again. Oh, it's fine. I can always go on a run somewhere different, especially if I get to talk with such a pretty young lady. She is 14. She is 14. 13, 14. Please run. He stepped a bit closer to me, to the point that if a stranger saw us, they'd assume we were family or something along those lines. That was my final straw. I immediately said, "This is my stop," before turning into a random fancy building and telling the doorman that a man outside had been acting weird and sort of following me. He told me I could wait inside by the lobby. Apparently, the man didn't leave until 5 minutes later when the doorman asked who he was waiting for, and he said his daughter. The doorman then threatened to call 911 after some back and forth, which made the man eventually leave. I ended up calling an older friend who had a car to pick me up. This may have been me being freaked out, but I could have sworn I saw the man waiting across the street in a cafe. No sir, no ma'am. No sir, no ma'am. No sir, no ma'am. No sir, no ma'am. Alright, so this last story is called Housesitting Last Spring, posted 1 month ago on the Let's Not Meet subreddit. OP says, friends went to Mexico for a vacation and asked me to house sit and take care of their dogs while they were gone. They pay me $40 a day just to sit around and let the dogs out when they need to go. I am disabled, so that helps a lot. This is a semi-rural area, and houses are roughly a quarter-mile apart. Police have to come from town 15 miles away, and response time can be well over an hour. I always take my pistol with me. America, everyone's just taking the pistols with them. It's always been quiet when I've stayed there. This time was different. I was in the shower when the dogs started barking and growling. They are big, large German shepherds, and one is actually police trained. The owners loan him to the county as a drug dog, and if you tell them to be quiet, they obey. This time they didn't, so I went on high alert. I shut off the water and looked out the window. I didn't see anything, but when I walked out of the bathroom, I saw a shadow go across the bedroom window. They have lights around the house that stayed on all night. I whispered to the dogs to hush, and they did. That's when I heard a man's voice. I couldn't make out everything he was saying, but I distinctly heard 2 words, "Come around." So I am sure there was more than one person. I ran into the living room with my pistol and saw the door handle turn. I yelled, "I have a gun and I will fucking use it." I heard feet run away. I was telling Siri to dial 911 and got the county sheriff fast. She said there were 2 cars on another call, but not far away, but it would take about 20 minutes for them to get there. That's better than the usual hour, but I was pretty shaken. I explained that I was on a farm and would have to go down to the road and unlock a cattle gate to let them in, and to please tell the officers that I would be carrying a pistol and please don't shoot me by mistake, because I was not going outside the house without it. And the dispatcher said, "Oh no, don't go out there without your gun, I will tell them." The one good thing about living in a red state. She asked if I could see the road, and I can, so she said to wait in the house until I saw blue lights. I hung up and called my friends in Mexico. Their camera footage can be downloaded via app, and they said they would go through it while I waited for the cops. I locked the house and